The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Hey, it's episode number 116, and it is 327 days till the man burns as of this recording, leading up to the 2020 scheduled Burning Man event, the not a festival in Black Rock Desert that was officially not an anything this year, for reasons I'm officially totally over talking about at this point, but a super dope thing happened. I was unsure about whether or not I could keep saying the man will burn in blah, blah, blah at the beginning of every episode. And the fucking man burned. In fact, he burned all over the world, on beaches and in deserts and private homes. The world over, our community made their own man, and tens of thousands of smaller burns happened all over the globe, channeling our movement's earliest manifestation in the most glorious way, when Larry Harvey and Jerry James burned their very first man on Baker Beach in San Francisco back in 1986. As for myself, I was at a quaint little tiny one in a park just 20 minutes from my house, moving my body to techno under the moonlight, along with a very, very small group of socially distanced dancing Brazilians who run with San Diego's Pineapple Live crew. And there was a little man, and he burned. Soon after, I saw on social media that intimate group gatherings all over the world were doing this exact same thing that we were, which was just absolutely beautiful. So now we know for sure the man will always burn, whether or not 80,000 of us gather in Black Rock City at the end of August. And so these stories we get to share on this show, in my humble opinion, have become even more valuable than ever to our community. Countless stories of adventures and synchronicities and connections, and stories like the ones that we'll be sharing today about the many communities that make up the International Burning Man community. The amazing participants who come together to erect a city from the dust and facilitate the experiences we get to have on that annual pilgrimage. That's a mouthful. Camps who become their own tribes and families. That's what she said, by the way. Today, I'm sitting with the founders of Camp. They're a camp, in case that wasn't clear. So maybe I should say I'm sitting with the founders of Camp, or Camp, or is it just Camp, Camp? Mysteries such as this will be solved on today's recording. I'm sitting with Bulbasaurus, Puppies, and Pickles. Without a doubt, the most adorable trio of names I've ever listed off in my intro. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to know the folks who created Camp Cubed, their world, how it came to be, and what they've been up to. Camp has a vibrant DJ crew and music culture. So after the talkie part of the show today, you'll be treated to a fire set by Los Angeles-based Fitta. Am I pronouncing that? Fitta, right? It's got like a Fitta of Camp, by the way. This set was recorded at our beloved and very, very missed local San Diego techno bar, Blonde. And the set was recorded at a fundraiser event on May 6th of 2017. Fitta's a lovely, amazing person, and this set was, don't get me wrong, it was fucking dope. But I also really wanted to use it as a tribute, a moment of techno silence for the aforementioned Blonde Bar, one of the many dance community spaces that we all lost in 2020. So, really enjoyed energetically being on Blonde's dance floor while listening to Fitta's set and preparing for today's interview. And let's jump into what I'm almost certain will be an hour and a half of ridiculous and hilarious banter. Today's episode is entitled Camp, a Camp. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There were sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, and it felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
You're not talking about that. We pause for a second and there's like music coming in and people are like, oh my god, it's like the music, and then like, you know, now you're like,
Sorry.
they do that. I imagine our listeners do that. They sit at home doing that. Make sure you hold the mics close to your mouth, by the way. Got it. Man, we need to limp it down. Anyway, I'm really excited about this. It's your camp has like always had like such a fun, warm, and welcoming energy, and like we've been chatting for quite some time about introducing the world to Camp, and then I got to actually come spend some time at Camp on Playa, and it's pretty fucking big, and like the main thing that surprised me, which is like one of the things that we'll explore in today's show about how fascinating it is that you have all these different like subcultures that come out of the Burning Man community. Camp has a massive presence in San Diego, in Southern California. And I rolled with you guys to Mind Warrior last year, which was like fucking awesome. And it's very common that I'll talk to friends, and I know a lot of people in San Diego community, and it's amazing how many people aren't aware of Camp in San Diego. And it's like a massive camp. Like it's a pretty big crew. And I've seen ones that have like 7 members and everybody in San Diego. But you know, you guys really have a culture. You have like your own mini festivals that you've been throwing for a long time. You're active. You know, it's not a small thing, which is super fascinating. And I'm excited about getting into how is that?
One thing, and it's kind of funny, I think since we started, it became a place camp. And
by the way, you should introduce yourself.
Oh, this is Bobosaurus.
There we go. So now you know.
So yeah, when we became a place camp, you know, that's going back, I think 2015 was our first year. Up until that point, I think as we started to grow, there's probably some, you know, camp envy, size envy, you know, presence envy, you know, kind of what you're getting to,
Really?
especially because we have other camps like Ego Trip, which are, you know, they have a huge party presence in San Diego.
Did they have an ego about the size of their camp?
They do.
It's not the size.
And then there's Desert Arts crew and Pile Palace and that, and so they definitely tend to get a little more name recognition with that kind of stuff. But we are certainly social people, and yeah, we do interact quite a bit in the community and participate, and I guess there's and of course Ministry of Color stuff we were doing before Utopia.
Yeah, I would say that Camp, we have never focused so much on music. Yes, we do have talented DJs, but that's never been the focal point of Camp. It's always for me been about the family and being a group of tight-knit friends and family first, and then the music is a topping, but it's never the main thing we gather for. And as a result, we've never had the big, you know, fundraisers and big events that get our name out there in a big way. It's more of kind of like you came across us word of mouth, little invites, and then you meet us and you feel that warmth that we've been cultivating over the years. And yes, of course, there's, you know, segments that love music like myself that is involved in other things in the community, in Utopia, Ministry of Color, doing our own events that bring that music to the forefront. But there's a lot of other factions that are doing a lot of cool things, like Carl Sagan, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and just a lot of inspired individuals where their camp is their home base, and then from there it's up to them what they want to bring.
My observation of it is like the music culture in Camp is like I said, it's very vibrant. Like it is very it's definitely a part of what I've observed. It's not like necessarily like a part of the branding of the camp, right?
Right.
No.
Because I've definitely like interviewed camps like where the music is like not even present. Like they don't have really DJs. Like they'll do activities and such. But there's definitely a pulsing heart of music with Camp. It's just like not like the part of the the sales point, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And then I think a lot of other.
By the way, you're Pickles.
Oh yes, I'm Pickles.
And also make sure to hold the mic fairly steady. Yeah.
Okay.
It's right on your
And
mouth.
I think a lot of other camps will have musicians who are that's what they do, or they're traveling, they're full-time musicians.
Yeah.
But we don't really
No.
have that. We're all it's just passion projects we play a few times a year,
Yeah.
maybe. So
Yeah.
maybe in a past life,
Even
Yeah.
less now.
way less now.
Yeah, and I'm Puppies, by the way. And just to kind of like bounce off of that, it's amazing. Like even when I got introduced to this group of friends back at my first burn in 2014, I was just blown away by the ingenuity of this group, that we have lawyers and doctors and just entrepreneurs and engineers and scientists and so many people coming together, that I think from an early time we recognized that we were so much more than just what we provided, whether it be a party or an art experience or maybe like a healing experience, because we have so many healers within our group as well. But we really just find kind of an interesting way to combine all of these different facets of our personalities into just a one-of-a-kind experience that you really can only name as like the camp
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you? Okay. If I'm stumbling through the dust and you run into me and I don't know anything about Burning Man, how would you describe the camp experience in the closest thing to an elevator pitch possible after 3 days of no sleep? This will be fun.
That's a hot seat there. You know,
You brought it up. You just voluntold yourself that's what we're doing.
You know, it's a different feeling every day, but you come into our space and immediately you're home. And I don't mean that in kind of a cliche, vague way. It's that you want to go behind the bar and serve us drinks? Sure, we'll show you the ropes. You want to sit down and be pampered and spoon-fed smoked salmon from one of our campers, Carrie Meyer, who is our resident grandma and also a professional fisher out in Default. There's just so many intricacies to it that each of us find our unique way to really make people feel at home being authentically themselves in that way.
Yeah, our camp experience is the people. It's not necessarily the toys that are there to play with. It's the human interaction.
Yep.
Yep.
It's deep, man.
Yeah, I mean they nailed it. We've really worked hard to cultivate this thing as a tight knit group of friends, and those who are new to the group, we make sure they are feeling at home, whatever that means to them, that we meet them where they're at, and that they integrate, and they're not on the outside that day one, and then they become a part of the organism, and then anyone that visits us becomes a part of that, and they feel truly at home.
Yeah.
And we've heard that time and time again, like this is it, this is what I'm here for. And it's just that warmth. It's not every camp has it, and it's no knock on them, but some are there to create something and build something, and that's its own art. But ours is really harnessing our gift, which is our connection and what we foster, and bringing that thoroughly, and then expanding in the art realm and the playa gift realm as we grow, but maintaining that core of family and friends. Yeah,
I think that's in my humble observation, that's actually a pretty accurate description. I think because again, like I think you folks will be. What did I say? Episode 116. Did I even say it in the beginning?
Yeah.
I was going to say that. There is, I have. You're absolutely correct. Like there are camps that I've interviewed where, like, they're very focused on a specific thing that they're building. And they're all, we're all burners. Everybody's like warm and welcoming and all that. Like, we're not saying anybody isn't, but it's like their intention, like there's a certain amount of hours in a day, and what I'm setting my focus on is building this fucking thing, right? And then, and I've definitely noticed, I feel like in all the interactions that I've had with Camp, there does seem to be a shared intention to absorb any new person, like there is this sense of like, people do make it a point to come up and hang out with you and spend one-on-one time with you and connect with you. And then I've definitely had that experience, and I've observed other people have that experience. So I can see for sure. That's interesting that there's an intention for that.
Yeah. And also the repeat customers, if you will.
Yeah.
So many times people will meet us at the beginning of the week, and they come back almost every day or a few times later in the week, and then years on. So we literally have people out there that we've met that are like part of our satellite camp, who bring their own rigs and everything, but they hang with us every year, and it's just this amazing expanding family. It's just incredible.
So you said rigs, you mentioned toys. What does the camp look like? Like what do I do when I come into camp?
Well,
Other than serve you drinks.
well, we really are strategic about our layout. We actually have an amazing camper, Natasha Tan, who is at home an architect. And she kind of has come in and over the years worked with all of us to really understand how to create a layout that is comfortable for guests and for burners to come into this space, while also paying attention to how our back end relates to that, so that we're kind of this full functioning organism space almost in a sense. But most people are familiar with our front end, which is our disco lounge with the famous, you may have seen his face before, but Gary the robot, who happens to be our DJ booth and sound system that keeps the heartbeat going for the whole camp. Surrounded by an incredible lounge crafted by a handful of our campers that really have put their heart into the ambiance of that space and creating this flowing but loungy, comfortable, open kind of setting for everybody. And then kind of off to the side, we have this art piece that my husband and I, also known as puppies, plural, two puppies.
Oh, that's it.
It gets confusing. But we created a space inside of a small geodesic dome called Carl Sagan. And to clarify, I know it's Sagan, but Carl Sagan, because what we do in the space is that we welcome people to come in and engage with kind of a never-ending video film process where it's Carl Sagan's speeches and excerpts from the cosmos kind of laid over various different video and imagery of space and humanity, and kind of explores all of these different topics and how there's this kind of unity within all of that, and how science is kind of the ribbon that ties that together. But if maybe that's your jam, if not, you can always come by for some hot bone broth that we have on the side, giving it the Saigon twist in the name as well. But yeah, we just like to create these kind of interesting spaces that allow for connection, that allow for people to kind of sit and be with themselves, and then try to tap in with each other in how their experience differs in that, just kind of building on that same thing we were talking about before of camp curating connection in that way.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You said the camp was founded in 2015?
2013.
But
Yeah,
we were officially
13.
a theme camp in 15,
It was a
like
flowing
affiliated.
process.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the seeds
was
were
it
planted in
was it in
13.
2013? You're just like a crew camping together?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
we came
name
together.
first came in 2012. It was with two good friends of mine who were brothers, Ryder and Duke. And before showing up, they had talked about, because we had all gone 2011 first time. 2012, they said, hey, we need a camp name. And them just two being silly people just said, how about camp? And then the name just stuck.
So
And
it's
then-
camp, comma, camp.
Camp.
It's not camp. It's not.
No punctuation.
Camp.
It's whatever your interpretation is.
But yeah.
This is terrible. This is not good journalism. I promised the listeners answers.
But yeah,
They'll find them in themselves.
You are the answer.
Well played.
So yeah, 2012, we came up with a name, and 2012 we happened to also meet Braden and a bunch of other people. And
Camp Synchronity.
yeah, one of the worst camp names ever.
What? Camp what?
Serve tea.
Says the leader of Camp
They
Campbell.
Camp
also-
Synchronity.
Synchronity.
Yeah, it was, there's chronic specifically in the
Groan.
name too, and the sign had bloodshot eyes on it.
Yeah.
It was-
Oh,
yeah,
Did you guys just discover weed?
yeah,
Discovered a lot of things.
yeah. So
great.
we became pretty fast friends over the following year, and then decided to merge our camp crews together in 2013, first year, and somehow had about 20 squatters come and camp with us, just kind of joined
Yeah.
right in with us, and then that they added on, and then all of a sudden we were a camp of about 50 people,
Yeah.
accidentally within a year.
We housed a couple from Seattle who just brought like beef jerky and Gatorade and no shade, and they were like literally going to die. So we took them in. We always have some adoptees every year.
I like it. Burning Man, you all just kind of like
got a
fail
band
forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Ironically, we had a greenhouse that year as our shade structure that I brought.
Nice.
Covering a bunch of Harbor Freight shade nut, and
Yep.
You said
Pieced
20.
together.
that was
20
2013.
That was 13.
Yeah,
Is it 2011 was first burn?
the first
For
first
him,
one for me. Yeah.
Mine was 2012.
Okay. Yours?
2014.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to know what everybody here was doing 2010. You start. Puppies. What was going on in your life?
2010.
Where were you?
Oh, it's so strange. I was in the transition between going to school for film scoring at Berklee College of Music to transitioning to a dual major in molecular biology and English.
Good.
You know, typical puppy stuff.
It's
You'll
normal
find
people
out.
that go to Burning Man. Yeah.
Yeah. I had never been to a festival too. Burning Man was my first festival.
Oh boy.
I think I went to a bluegrass festival up in Maine one
Yeah.
time, but it's
Yeah.
not the same.
It's like, I've never done
little
drugs
different.
before. You want heroin?
Yeah, exactly.
I like to go all in.
Yeah. So you're in school. Did you know about Burning Man? Were you aware of it?
Oh yeah, actually,
Because you're in Berkeley and people don't shut up about it, I imagine.
no one was talking about it. I actually didn't have a lot of friends who had either experienced it or were engaging with the community and with the burners. But regardless, like I ended up seeing this YouTube video where and maybe people are familiar with it, but it's when they recite the words to "Oh, the Places You'll Go" with the Dr. Seuss,
Yeah.
and just seeing that, I had always felt, not in a bad way, but kind of like a black sheep in a lot of ways in my life, in all these different groups I would shift and move through, that I was just a little too weird, and I'm like, where are the weirdos? And this video just kind of hit me in a way that just made me know, I'm like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm going to get out there. I was in Boston. I had no plans to move out here to the West, and just kind of knew eventually that would probably be something that I would experience in my life.
Wow.
But yeah,
So the seeds got planted.
Yep,
Were
early
you, were you
on.
married yet at that time?
nope.
Okay.
Nope, I was on my own.
So, okay. Where were you 2010?
Talk about your Burning Man wedding later. 2010, living in Ocean Beach, San Diego. Already a weirdo.
Yeah.
Other than that, running a company that I had at the time, and music festivals are not new to me. It's something I was always going to live music and going to festivals and stuff, so not new. But Burning Man, I was aware of when I was probably around 18. Yeah, and I'm from Boston as well, and like cruising on the internet, coming across some pictures of it, and that was back early 2000s, and saw it, became interested, and like, oh, this looks fucking weird and cool, and then it escaped my mind because it was on the other side of the country. It's not focused on, just there was nothing accessible about it to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then it was early 2011. One of those two brothers that I was talking about, they said, so we have friends that are talking about going to Burning Man, want to go? And just all came rushing back to us like, fuck yes, we are doing that. And and it was amazing. I had destroyed my ankle in June right before. I was bedridden for over a month, healing it, and had a boot on when we were about to leave. And I'd been running my company, and my business partner hated me because I'd been out of work and had about $500 to my name, and told them,
What kind of company?
Marine electronics, working on boats, custom electronic stuff. And so it's about 2 weeks before, guys, I can't go. This, you know all my story why I can't go. They go, fuck you. You're getting in the van. We're paying for everything. Just go. You need this. Took off my boot and went, and then
Wow.
It just
Were
never
you
the same again.
like was how do I ask this question? Were you already into weird shit, or was it just like
Yeah. Oh,
festival
fuck yeah.
partying stuff
Yeah.
that was interesting? Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely.
like-
I didn't know what to expect. There was even in 2011, there wasn't like a ton of online internet social media content. Burning Man, like you look it up on YouTube and like you see a few videos, but it wasn't Instagram at that time and all of the other stuff that people share. So it was still pretty much a mystery to me. I remember riding out. I was with my friend Ryder and his girlfriend at the time, Lindsay. It was just me and Lindsay sitting in the van driving out there up front, and we lived in Ocean Beach. And it's like, okay, this, we're going to go and experience some weird stuff here, but like, how weird is it really going to be? We already live in OB. I mean, obviously, now it sounds like a silly question, but, yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience in the best possible way.
Tell me about the first thing that really like ripped the veil off of you about like that question you just said, how weird can it be? Like, what was the first experience you had on Playa that kind of did the internal explosion?
I don't know. I do remember my first like I'm in a different place experience with it. It was the first night. It took us forever to get there, and we showed up. We didn't go the full week. We left on like Tuesday morning at like 3 a.m. or something. Traveled up, got there. We got on Playa around midnight or so. Didn't even set up any tents, nothing, just pulled our bikes off and went out. And I think we went back to camp somewhere around 5 in the morning. I slept outside on the ground just because we hadn't slept anything up. And it was a nice, like, it wasn't windy, like no dust storm, pleasant. Yeah. And I just remember laying in my sleeping bag. It's about 5 in the morning. And it was back when our cars would still roll through fucking camp in the middle of the night. And our car rolled through blasting 9-inch nails. And I just went to sleep smiling to that. I was like, this is so fucking ridiculous.
Do our cars not do that anymore?
Not in the middle of the night usually. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've had a lot of those experiences.
Yeah.
Like, this is my tent. Here's my head.
Yeah.
There's the cloth of my tent dividing the outside world and the inside of my tent.
Yeah.
And there's the wheel of an art car.
Yeah.
This whole sound system. Pickles, where were you in 2010?
2010, I was in the middle of a 2-year backpacking trip around the world in which I did 38 countries. So probably I was in, Asia or Europe.
Wow.
At that time.
What was that like?
What part?
The third part.
I mean, it was just, I graduated from San Diego State in 2007.
Majoring in what?
Majored in business management.
Okay.
And was going to go the finance path and had a job lined up in mutual funds. And about a month into my travels, I just decided I didn't want to do finance. My perspective about money and the American dream completely altered.
How? What? Talk.
Well,
all that.
When you're in finance,
yeah.
I mean, growing up in America, anyways, you're taught that money is happiness.
Yeah.
And the more wealth you accumulate, the more happy you're going to be. And in my action of doing this trip, I thought I was doing something incredibly special. And for Americans, it is to take a long trip around the world. But once I broke those chains and got to Auckland, New Zealand, and saw hundreds of young people like myself from UK, Canada, Australia, all over the world doing the same thing, and seeing how free and happy they were and not worried about, I'm not at home making money.
Yeah.
A light bulb went off, and it just totally altered my my path forward from what I thought I was going to do. And I knew it wasn't right what I was going to do, but I was going to do it anyways, because what else were you going to do after college? You're going to...
That is so powerful. I have to share this story now.
Sure.
Because we were just talking about like this exact topic last night. I had a previous partner, romantic partner, who I can say with absolute certainty is a badass motherfucker. Like she's a very strong leader, very, very powerful person. And we had like our first fight. Closest thing we had to a fight, a strong disagreement, was that we were describing an intern that I was working with at that time. This intern's professor, she had said that she wants to take a year off after college and go travel the world, which is, by the way, like multiple cultures have that as like a part of, like what did the Australians want to call it?
Gap year for UK.
Yeah, like go see what the fuck is going on out there, and then like you've got time, you can come back and figure shit out. This intern, she was brilliant and intelligent and amazing, and her professor had said, no, this is the time to go get into the market because you're going to miss out on your career if you go travel. And I remember like her telling me the story and like me being filled with like inexplicable rage, like fuck that guy, like go travel, like go see what's going on in the world. And I remember like my partner and I were having this exchange. She agreed with the professor.
Of course, that's what society tells you.
I could not wrap my brain around it. I'm like, you're a boss. Like you could be a boss in any field. You could drop everything you're doing right now and go take over a whole different field because you are that amazing. And she didn't see that. She was completely connected to the professional identity that had been demanded. Like, this is what you do. You're not allowed to leave. And which is just mind-blowing. So your story is really hitting home with me right now.
And I saw what it did for people. We started a travel blog and a Facebook group, and there were so many people before, during, and after that reached out, hundreds and hundreds, that were like, you're living my literal dream. And we're out there like, it's all a veil we had over our eyes, and we lifted it. And we were sharing these stories to help people lift those veils as well and be that voice for them against what society is telling them. Because really, it's an imaginary trap in your head created by society in America specifically. So
do you think there is a way to like slowly put one's foot into the pool, or do you think you have to just jump the fuck in?
Jump. You have to jump. Because it's so hard to, dip your foot in the pool. It's like after I graduated, I just worked 4 jobs and moved home. I saved a ton of money, and I was able to travel for 2 years on $30,000.
3-day stay at Club Med ain't gonna do it.
No. Yeah, and 2 weeks, 2 months, you're just never going to get to that free space of a long-term travel. And that's where the freedom lies, is totally detaching and going, I don't even know what I'm going back to. It's really scary, but what's on the other end of it is something that will alter you and your mental state, I think, for the rest of your life.
It's like anytime somebody suggests it for the first time for the burn, no, maybe I'll go for like the last 3 days. Fuck you, that's stupid.
You're going the whole week. Yeah, absolutely.
It takes 3 days just to acclimate.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Wednesday, I feel like you sync up, and that's the new year, as some call it.
And I forget it every year. Every fucking year I go, I forget that it takes 3 days like just to acclimate. I'm like crying. My emotions are all over the place.
It takes months when you're traveling. It took me months. But I guess fast forward to the burn.
Hold on, before you do that, I have to share this. I want to jump to that right now. But I want to share this Terence McKenna quote. It's one of my favorites. Nature loves courage. You make the commitment and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all the teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemic gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a feather bed.
Absolutely. I've never heard that. That's beautiful.
Love this.
Way better than comfort or was it growth begins outside your comfort zone?
Yeah,
That's
fucking
like
does.
way better.
Yeah, I like pain is what is pain is. No, hold on. Strength is pain leaving the body.
Something like that.
I'm like that. Okay, Burn.
Getting
Go.
deep. So, prior to my travels in college, even in high school, I was DJing, and I was in with some very like,
were you playing disco back then?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I was in the kind of club scene down here because there was only a few clubs back then in San Diego in 2008. I actually saw Deadmau5 for like $6 at Red Circle the second night he wore
Red
his
Circle,
helmet.
oh my God.
No one was there.
Nuts.
So I was kind of in this pocket of DJs around
Yeah.
here who were getting into this music
Yeah.
that, 2 years later changed the world. And, I had that in front of me and I was like, no, I'm going traveling. I'm going to sell all my stuff. So I come back and my friends from college, we all partied like crazy. I was in a fraternity. I've always been a hyper social animal, and music was my connection to that. But I always have loved sharing music, collecting music, and DJing is kind of my art form. I'm not a super artsy person, but that's like my outlet. And I came back. They were going to Lightning in a Bottle. I worked on a yacht the year between my travels and when I came home as a reentry into, because I was scared to come home after whatever 700 days of changing landscape is from a psychological standpoint kind of frightening when you're coming back to a sedentary life, and I was afraid of depression and all the bad things that could be on the other side of that.
Wow.
So I found a job on a yacht. Florida, which shipped me out to Germany, which I was on couch surfing and met my beautiful wife Gloria through that story. That's a whole other thing. But
Can you do a short version of that?
Oh no, it's a long one. Okay. But we came back, went to the Lightning in the Bottle. I think it was 2011, or maybe that was 12. And just when you come home from a trip like that, you have some pretty overwhelming feelings of, am I going to be able to integrate again? It's kind of frightening. I remember having breakdowns in grocery stores. My first one, I came back, all the options, it was like just a slap in the face. Like, you are home, consumerism. And it's a little scary. And you're like, am I going to find my, like Courtney said, where are the freaky people at? Where are the weirdos?
Yeah.
Where are my travelers?
Why did you come home?
I thought I was going to travel for a year. I did too. I had a great run. So
Okay.
it was just time to
Like,
start.
did the possibility exist of living somewhere else in the world? You've seen all these other options.
Yes and no. Ideally, yes, but I'm a very logical, grounded person, and I just didn't see how that was going to happen. I still didn't have a trade or a career
Right.
that I could make a living with. So I wanted to get home and figure out what I'm doing. And Lightning in a Bottle just blew the doors off for me. I was like, this is it. Like, I found my kind of travel community. It's open-minded. It's free. It's got music. So then a friend from high school that was friends with my best friend at the time, he was like, hey, I'm going to Burning Man. Do you guys want to come? And I'm like, absolutely. So we went, and that was Camp Synchronity.
It never gets old.
And my moment that made me realize, whoa, I'm in a different universe was, I had quite a few, but because music is such a pillar in my life, I'd spent 3 days looking for a Robot Heart with my good friend Jake from college and couldn't find it, and finally found it, and ended up seeing that night. It was I think a Wednesday, Jamie Jones at Robot Heart. And this is 2012 when Deep House is just getting going.
Yeah.
I fell in love with Deep House because of Adriatic and a Wolf and Lamb set. And it was pretty obscure, but I just fell in love with the sound, and that experience at Robot Heart, it just blew my mind with that sound system, that music, with the best DJs in the world doing it, who are going to be kings, of their genre, art department. It's just unbelievable. I stayed there from 3 to 10 a.m. sober, just dancing up front. Like, I met so many great people still that I'm friends with today. We just went back there every night and come home at 10 a.m. It was absolutely insane, and just made me fall in love.
Beautiful. Puppies, your first burn. How'd you end up out there?
Well, my partner and I had kind of loosely discussed it, and our landlord at the time, who had become now kind of like a family father figure of sorts for us out here, had been going for many years with the camp Sin City, and he and his wife
Sin City?
Sin City, yep, and they do the Party Naked Tiki Bar.
Okay.
So he
yeah, I had a very powerful experience there.
They're incredible
this past
people.
year, yeah.
That I love that group so much, and they had really opened our eyes to the fact that this could be an opportunity for us to really just kind of like unsheath that cocoon, you know, and like experience a culture out here that they knew we would so well integrate into. And we had like a mutual friend who knew some of the campers down here that said, well, if you're going to go to Burning Man, you should probably be with a camp. And we had no idea what that entailed. We're like, oh, well, you can't just go on your own. And they're like, well, you can, but you might actually enjoy it more if you have a community to kind of ground down with there.
Right.
Because things get pretty crazy, and it's good to have somebody around that might have your back in a situation where you might have blind spots, and it just helps to have your people. So we kind of linked up, found one of the campers that had been in Long Beach near where we were living, and kind of just did the whole pilgrimage trek up there together. And we didn't know anybody within the community. We kind of just were testing the waters and started figuring out there were a handful of campers that had actually come from the same state. We grew up in New Hampshire, so we started making these little connections with the group in that way, but nothing could prepare me for what that experience was stepping onto Playa the first time. And we got to the space where they said our camp would be set up. It was pretty far back in the burbs that year, and there was a stranger, one of our neighbors, walking by when we were kind of figuring out where we're parking and setting things up. And he kind of walked up to me, and he was a little far away, and kind of shouted out, "Welcome home!" And I couldn't really tell what he was saying. So being me, I'm kind of like squinting my eyes, like looking and trying to get closer to him, but not too close, because I'm like, stranger, he's not with our camp. What am I doing? Mm-hmm. And he comes up to me and approaches me, and he's like, I said, welcome home. And I was like, oh, thank you. And held my hand out for him to shake my hand. Yeah. And this stranger then starts to just inspect my hand so carefully, holding it so gently, looking at every nail, every finger, kind of cocking his head from side to side. And then he's just like, do you like to hug? Could we hug? And immediately that's that moment that it clicked for me that the veil lifted, so to speak, as you guys were saying. And I just realized, oh, I am safe here.
Yeah.
This is going to be something very different.
That is a beautiful story. Mm-hmm. That is really awesome. I feel like job number one for me on this show is just like to make sure there's no awkward silences. So I'm just like, start talking. But like right now, I'm just kind of lost thinking about that experience. Like because I had a similar thing happen just the other day where I was reflecting on the amount, like phrases that we use in our day-to-day experiences that they're meant as like a confirmation, like of receiving somebody else's statement. Like if you imagine somebody's word as a tennis ball, like you're receiving it, but like sometimes they lose meaning after a while. And like a handshake is like one of those things where it's like there are powerful handshakes. I mean, there's like you look somebody in the eye, you shake hands, you bond, like that exists, but that's not the majority of handshakes. A lot of the time it's just this mechanical response. And what this stranger did is took that opportunity to have a moment completely to be present and to have this really interesting experience. Yep. Like, look at this appendage this person has. Like, this is really beautiful.
yeah, it really it shook me, and just from that point forward, I mean, I stepped out onto Playa for my first night ever that night, and I'm typically a very prepared person. I think many of our friends would know, and I step out there. I think I had water on me and some lights, but I think that might have maybe my ID, but that was about it. I didn't even bring a dust mask the first night out. Total virgin status in every way. And we somehow got ourselves all the way out towards the trash fence with no coats on. And it's,
my God.
I know, this is like the token
me
virgin
anxiety
burner
right now.
moment. And I look at Brian and I'm like, I'm cold and hungry. And he just looks at me like, but we're 7 miles out, babe. And I'm like, so do we go back for the night? And he's like, we can't do that. We can't do that. We got to figure something out. And I'm like, okay, I got this. We can power through. And I noticed this man in a Tigger onesie with a light blue mustache kind of dancing over there. And I'm like, well, let's distract ourselves for a moment and let's just have a moment dancing in front of this snail art car with Tigger. And turns out Tigger was a ranger. And I didn't even realize there were rangers out there at the time. And he sat down with us, and we just he had like a game he wanted to play with us. And we just had this really great engagement with him. And through the process, without even necessarily asking for what I needed at that time, he literally was pulling out of his bag, like Mary Poppins, everything I needed. He handed me a thing of sardines with chopsticks and even a moop bag to put it in after so that I could carry my moop with me. And it just hit me in this way where I was like, that's what I want to be. That's what I am to my people back home. And not only that, but like, I deserve this and I can receive that. And it flipped a switch. It was pretty special.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tigger. If you're listening.
Shout out to Tigger. Yeah, when it's been a life lesson that's been hitting me a lot, especially like the past year. Like, focus on your own alignment, and things fall into place. Like, you literally did that in that moment. You're like, I could focus on the thing that's irritating me right now, or I can focus on joy, and then the rest of it just fell into place.
Yep.
This is pretty cool. So we started to brush on this a little bit earlier, and I want to get deeper into those earlier days where you said like a bunch of squatters showed up and all of a sudden you're accidentally a camp.
Yeah.
So are you like now having conversations about like, fuck, are we a theme camp now? Like, do we need to plan this next year? Did the idea for a theme camp come about while you were back in default, or was it formulating while you're out there? What was going on in the early days of Camp officially becoming Camp?
I think it was, so we had 13, 14, 2014, we actually purchased the shade structure purposely. And that's when like things started coming together, and a friend, without discussing it, brought a bunch of building materials and built a bowling alley that year. So it kind of started to be like, okay, this is kind of a thing. Like, we're bringing stuff, we're building stuff.
Were you meeting regularly in default?
We would have like 1 or 2 camp meetings at the early year.
I remember specifically at that time, I think we had around 30 people in 2013. And then my concerns were growing too quick and in too many numbers and too quickly.
Right.
Because so many people wanted to come next year. Like, everyone wanted to bring a friend. So I was afraid, like, we were looking at 60, 70 people.
And 13 it was really just me and Braden.
Yeah.
Pickles,
Heading it up.
heading up camp and organizing and collecting the money. Or like, it was crazy to us at first. Like, when we did in 13, we charged $25 for dues. Like, people are gonna be okay with this?
Simple times.
$25.
Yeah. So becoming an official camp and managing the growth, the expectations, all those things, and like, purchasing shade structure and then custom shade netting from the Midwest and all these things that we had to do. So I think in that, it just leveled us up from this rinky-dink camp to, oh shoot, now we have a bowling alley. Now we have 55 people. Now I'm like in line to get dinner.
Yeah.
whoa, this is big. So I think that's when you guys really started
Yeah.
looking at the theme
Yeah,
camp.
we started. Yeah, I think 2015 was when I really started taking everything on my own and
Yeah.
in the organization. Yeah, I think that's when we first tried to get placement. And I remember talking to some other friends that run some of the local camps. They're like, "Oh yeah, just do some name dropping and sign up, you'll be fine." And that's when they first started actually getting like tons of people applying to be theme camps. And we got rejected, like, oh shit. And then the following year, we kind of said, oh, I don't think I even talked. We kind of talked about doing it again. Oh, we were disappointed last year. Do we really want to do it? And it was like the last night before.
You were disappointed last year?
We were disappointed in the first year applying to be a theme camp and not getting it.
Ah, okay.
And so it was the following year, I guess 2015 or 16.
Can I ask? I'm sorry. We like
Yeah.
geeky information like this.
I'm rambling
Was there a
a lot,
reason why you were not?
Oh, I think the reason that they didn't, it was like not enough interactivity.
Okay.
Just blanket, whatever.
We were like, we're just a bunch of people camping together, and then we might have a bowling ball.
So, in the following year, we had kind of discussed it. I don't know if we even had a meeting. We were like, screw
Can
it.
I ask? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
One more question.
No problem.
What was the value that you were reaching for by hoping to become a theme camp?
I don't know. I think it felt like just something we were supposed to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that was probably part of it too.
It's a little more ego.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, got it.
And then the following year, I think we discussed it. It said, you know what, screw it, it's too much work. You know, we got a good thing going as it is. And then it was the last night before, when the applications are due. I think I was sitting on my couch. I said, fuck it, I'm filling one out, and did it. And then we got placement. And then it became, and you get your answer in, second week of July or something like that. And we went, oh shit, now we have to make a theme camp.
Yeah, 15 was the first Carl Sagan year.
Yeah.
And that was a whole funny situation where we didn't know how to explain it to anyone what we wanted to do. And everyone was like, well, that sounds really cute and cuddle puddly. We should put it in the back of camp for only us.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's going to get in the way of the bowling alley. That sounds stupid. And so, and it's turned into the most wonderful thing we have is a piece of camp. So, yeah, so that was interesting and fun, and we kind of scrambled and threw a little more money together and put something together. It was great. I think we had a bowling alley, we had Carl Sagan, we had these meditation pyramids, little themed pyramids that had meditation space and little art projects in them, and
Champagne Disco
Champagne
Tuesday.
Disco.
That's
that was a organically. Hey, we should do a champagne disco party right now.
which has gone every year on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's 12 to 6. We bring different disco DJs, including our own, and
Blackout on
it's just
champagne.
it's like a perfect entry to the week. Mondays you're usually situated by Monday, and then Tuesday is open up with day disco and champagne, and we have people on the street bringing people in, so we get it going. It's just the best way to kick off the week for everyone, and now it's in the book and people come for it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I had a blast at that one. How did your feelings about being a theme camp shift after becoming a theme camp?
It changes every year, I think, because it's camp is this, at least for me, I always look at it as this kind of ever evolving, vacillating organism of this collective desire that we want, where because it's been so ambiguous and because we're not oh, we are specifically a sound camp, or oh, we are specifically an art play camp, or this or that, that it often shifts what our focus wants to be as far as interactivity and creativity. But again, I think the intention of that always builds from that space that we always say. I mean, every year, the past few years when I've been involved in leadership, we do Exodus and pre-burn surveys. And unanimously, almost everybody's response as to where do you see camp in 5 years from now, or what is it that you get out of this experience that means the most to you? It's that connection again and that family. So that kind of is that pulse that keeps us there with the beat and the meat. There's not actually no meat. We're actually a vegan camp technically, but we have meat eaters.
Yeah.
Some of us.
Well, we have 2 vegans. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
but
funny.
honestly, I think we keep raising the bar collectively every year. That every year it kind of sharpens a little bit more and more as we kind of edge forward into fully expressing ourselves as a group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really been well facilitated by the fact. So after, through middle of our growth, after Brad had kind of dipped out from organizing things with me, I took the lead and kind of tried to do everything for a few years. And that, it kind of sustained. It was okay till a point, and then I got a pretty big kick in the ass on the things I was missing doing that, and all totally valid reasons that I was fucking things up. But what that
List 3 of them.
probably give you 20, but yeah, and then but what that catalyzed was us creating this leadership group for camp, and it flowed from a couple people being lead admin to Puppies being that for the last couple of years, and she's done an amazing job of holding things together, and I was always the one who was really good at getting shit together to bring camp physically there, and sort of being the camp dad and like petting people on the head when they're getting stressed out and all that stuff. So it's allowed me to really focus on those things while everything getting done needs to get done, and so that's been pretty amazing. But so as we've grown this leadership group, that's really been a big part of like helping camp be the best it can and be, still have a point of going there and being a theme camp.
Yeah.
The leadership group, correct me if I'm not phrasing this correctly, but it's almost like a sub-community within the community.
Yeah, we call it
Building
camp
it.
council.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like to be able to focus the energy and disperse it outwards.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier some concerns you had about growing too quickly. Did you put a cap on camp
Yes.
numbers?
We did.
A cap-
Yeah.
Did you put a cap on camp?
And actually,
cap.
with that, I don't remember who it was in the group that found this. It could have been you. It could have been you. Could have been any of us. But there was basically like a couple of studies done to show generally what size groupings are too large in order to truly have a one-on-one connection with each person, and
Right.
we tend to find a sweet spot anywhere between that like 55 to 65 individuals is about the max you can do before it starts to get more complicated and difficult to really have those intimate interactions.
I've just had other people that are in leadership of other camps, and pretty collectively they've said over 55 you're fucked.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
We were 85 one year, right? That was like right before we were a theme camp.
That was
I remember the
60,
chaos of
65.
65. Yeah, no,
Seven-
never
70.
hit.
70.
Yeah.
Okay.
it was
Yeah,
a lot.
maybe it's an urban legend
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
That's
It was a lot.
That's really fucking cool to
Well,
hear.
sorry, one more thing on that
please.
was funny. I remember having the camp meeting early in that year, and one of our friends saying, "No, we shouldn't have a cap on the camp.
Oh,
we don't want to be exclusive."
there was pushback.
And then in the end of the week, her coming to me going, "This is way too many people."
Yeah.
And this is for me. I just started to get worried from business management kind of background, been involved in a lot of organizations, and I started to get a little worried about such a quickly growing group, but all that weight being bared by the same couple people.
Right.
And it manifested and it happened, and that's why I got frustrated to a point with how things played out, and just I got crushed by the kind of the weight of so much going on, and
Right.
us not dispersing that weight correctly. That I just had to step back from it, or else it was going to ruin a lot of my friendships. It was almost like a business relationship at that point, and I see everything, and sometimes it's just like it becomes a lot. It becomes a lot. What's meant to be your haven and your fun time now becomes a job.
Yeah.
And people are coming up to you, asking for everything.
Yeah.
And you have to answer to it.
And I think a huge breakthrough that we had in that same regard, because I think that was a very universal feeling with many of the people that were taking on a lot of responsibility in camp, that you kind of recognize that a lot of these people are asking the same questions and that these patterns keep showing up. That is something that I kind of realized when I was kind of dipping my toes into camp leadership, was people need to feel that we acknowledge their authority and that there's no hierarchy here. There's no mastermind behind the curtains pulling the strings on this, that we're just doing this because we're doers. Yep. And I think over time, we've kind of been hitting this sweet spot now where people now realize, like, they're in control of themselves. If they want to act and be a leader and do that thing and follow through, that you have your own personal authority, and that mixed with a decent amount of delegation, I think, has really been the thing that's kind of clicked things together and made it so much easier, so it doesn't become overwhelming for just a few people.
Yeah, I will say too, that was a big part of what was wrong with me doing, handling all the leadership, was it was easy when people wanted to help out, when they wanted to do something, create something, participate in some way. I had the attitude of like, well, I could help you do that and figure it out, or I could just take care of it, and that's just faster and easier.
Right.
And so that's one thing, with the camp council, with Courtney's leadership has actually changed tremendously. Is people are actually more empowered to participate and create something for camp.
And back to being placed, how did that change the dynamic? It was the change that we needed. I saw too much growth, too much energy, and there was no place to put it, not being a placed camp.
Yeah.
But that dynamic shifted completely when you have a purpose and a duty to the community. That's something I kind of saw as like, I remember short stat camp, and like 8 people, and they had such an amazing camp, and I just was thinking in my mind, we have 50, and we're not even doing anything. Like, what are we doing? And that conversation was repeated. So then really getting that placement just it was just what we needed to give everyone that feeling of connection to the community. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, when we weren't placed and we didn't have a duty, it really felt like everyone kind of expected things to happen for them by leadership. We weren't a unit. We didn't have a collective vision or anything like that. It just felt like, oh, we're here. It's just we're kind of floating around.
Right.
Receiving experience as opposed to a contribution experience.
Yeah.
And that's been everything. I was just elated the first time I was able to attend a placed year. It's completely different.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's and it's interesting too, because like many of us are attracted to this community, perhaps because we're frustrated by some of the systems that control much of our lives. And sometimes the lesson that we learn is that the issue is not systems as a whole, but the infrastructure of systems that have been too deeply established in the default world that make a lot of us want to run the fuck away. Like, I want to do whatever I want. And then you find like, if you actually have, some systems in place so that it allows more freedom for flow, it allows more freedom for play and more freedom for connection. And that's what I'm picking up from like some of what you're describing.
100%.
I have 2 questions. Let me ask this first one of you, Pickles. So you actively took some time away from leadership?
Yes.
Because you're like, I'd like my friends back.
Yeah.
And,
and my sanity.
right. And then,
time.
Did you, one, how fucking hard is that to like see things happening and be like, nope, not doing it. And 2, at what point did you decide you're ready to go back?
It really wasn't hard at all. Mm-hmm. I said, next time I come back, I'm coming as one of these guys.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'm just
cool.
gonna freeing. It's freeing after having all the weight and not having that. It's beautiful. And obviously I still had respect and a voice, during setup and breakdown and, to teach what I've learned. so that's always gratifying. You're not completely detached from
Yeah.
it and just a spectator anymore. But it was very freeing for me personally. And then what was the second question? Sorry.
I'll just comment on that real quickly.
Yeah.
My experience with strong leadership characteristics is that strong leaders are also really, really good at like shutting it off and going, "You're in charge now,"
Yeah.
because we
Delegate.
know what it's like. We know what it's like. It's like, oh, thank God, somebody else has got the
Well-
steering wheel, and we're not going off the cliff.
Well, and it was in the right hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Courtney and Bobo and everyone else involved
I'm the
has
masochist.
done so well that I
Right.
know it's in the best hands possible
Right.
and it's not going off the rails.
This next question is actually for all of you, so you can answer collectively, or each of you can have a contribution. What is an executable takeaway that if I am a camp lead, let's say I'm a camp lead and I have less experience, and I want advice about, from people who've been through this experience and how I can maximize efficiency in my camp, what is an actual executable item that you could suggest to someone who is in that kind of situation? All their eyes got big. Like, fuck, I gotta be specific.
I think delegation. You tend to, these things often happen organically with one or a few people, and it tends to be a pyramid structure, top down. But as you grow, in my opinion, you have to delegate and you have to let go of the reins, not totally, but bring people in, give people power, create a council or whatever you want to call it, where there's multiple people who have decision-making power, who can absorb the shock of the collective growth, because there will be a lot of people who always have something to say, and you need to have safeguards for that, so you don't literally get crushed by everything that's happening. And yeah, you're a community, so you grow together, and I think that's the most important thing I've seen. And if I could do it again, we would have set that up way earlier.
You would have set up the council way earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what having the council structure. It's getting people to take volunteer to take ownership of specific categories in the operation of camp. So we have a treasurer who takes care of the accounting and tells us what we can and can't spend on certain things, and and doing those sorts of things. Not having to wear too many hats, having somebody that can deal with collecting dues with people, and not have it be the same person who's trying to organize the infrastructure and still build at the same time. Well, you have 4 people calling. You have to call 4 different people to follow up on why they haven't paid yet, and delegating those things out relieves so much stress and your time. It's like for us who are doing these things, it's a second job, full-time job in the month or two beforehand. So. It's tough.
Yeah.
And so many people don't understand that.
That it's a
In the
full-time
camp.
job. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There, you have people that, are trying to figure out, what kind of pillars they're going to bring, ahead of time, and calling you and asking for your advice. And they're like, fuck you, I'm building something.
Yeah,
Leave me alone.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think something that's helped me in the process is that always reminding myself that growth is not linear, and that depending on your perception of it, sometimes people can get burnt out if they feel that their whatever process is going on for them is stunted in some way. But I think as a leader, it's important to remember that everybody kind of processes things differently, and also different things make people feel secure and empowered in what they're providing to the group. So if you're able to kind of set that precedence that it's okay to tap out. Like, there's no rule here where, like, if you commit to something and things get crazy and there's a dust storm that blows away your special thing, that there's so many of us here to pick up that slack, that I think that feeling of that safety and security is what it actually takes to make people push themselves past those boundaries that they thought they had. And aside from that, I mean, more on the like nitty gritty side of this is creating systems of flow for people, that creating a game plan beforehand for your build and your breakdown, and just creating systems so that you don't necessarily have to go to the person that's in charge of that project to ask, how is this done?
Yeah.
That we have resources available for campers, whether it be things that are more cut and dry, like how to secure a shade structure, or how to prep the meal for tonight's dinner, or even how to stock the fridge when we get in there.
Can you give a specific example of one of those systems? Like, do you use Google Docs?
Yep, there's lots of
yeah.
spreadsheets, lots of surveys.
So like if I'm new to camp, and I mean, is it possible that if I'm new to camp, I'd be assigned to setting up, I don't know, the kitchen?
It's interesting. It's actually, people don't necessarily get assigned to any particular position, but we more open up the floor and say, these are the seats we have available to fill.
How do you do
Where
that?
do
Is
you
this on a
feel-
pre-meeting before the burn?
So there's a couple ways it happens, but probably the biggest way it happens for the collective group is within our job assignments, that we have a system in which people can sign themselves up for specific shifts at camp, whether it be something more back end and logistical, or anything from like mooping our space, or bartending at one of our events, that we just create a little bit of structure there so that people can kind of choose their own adventure of how they
Right.
participate and help the camp.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry for being extra geeky. I'm legitimately
Yeah.
like, I'm wondering, like, okay, so literally, where do I go to sign up
I don't
for a
remember
shift?
the website. they use.
It's called job sign up, or
Sure.
signup.com.
Yeah, and it's like every day, Sunday to Monday.
Signup.com.
Yeah.
This is is this the web?
This is a
Legitimately
website.
a service that
And
like I can go sign up for and use?
Yep, there's a
Okay.
free service that we use, but you can also get more integrative systems through their like paid programs. This is not a sponsored ad.
No. This is no. I mean, Braden knows I'm a productivity geek, so like, no, we're into this. Like, I
It
want
helps.
listeners to go like, yo, I want to go start using that service.
And it's badass.
Signup.com.
It's badass because there's also these systems in it where I can, as like a theme camp organizer, I can give certain criteria that you need to meet in order to hit specific jobs. Now, most of our jobs anyone can take. Like
Yeah.
we don't have any systems of like, you need at least 4 years of experience on playa to, we don't play like that. But certain jobs that maybe breakdown leads or early build teams, it kind of sets different criteria that you need so that people have all of the information up front that they need to know of like, is this the job that's going to fit the amount of time and energy I want to put into this?
Right.
Or is it everything down to like the hours it takes that you can really put that in there for
That's
people?
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. Okay, I love that. I'm already like really excited about a takeaway from this episode. I'm gonna go check out
Yeah.
signup.com.
We'll consult for you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And like one other element of kind of a trick that I had, maybe people already have their own systems in their connections with their camp that make this work. I know we certainly already had a lot of this within our space, but something that it was kind of my way of like coming into the leadership is I came to the camp council before I was camp director and said, I want to get involved. Like, I feel like I could probably do this. I have enough time to dedicate to this after work. But there wasn't really like a specific position like treasurer or president or secretary really available. So I said, hey, why don't I become humanities lead? And I kind of like created this new role in camp where we kind of dive deeper into the interpersonal connection and how we actually create solidarity within the group, and from that kind of created this new thing, Camp Guardians, essentially exactly what you would believe Temple Guardians or something like that
Yeah.
might be, but for our camp space and for that ethos of camp.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I was actually going to bring up the Guardians as something that just hit me because
Tell us about that. What does that entail?
I think you can explain it. But I have a commentary on it.
Yeah.
After you.
Explain what it is, and
yeah.
then you comment on it.
So in 2016, I did my first year as a Temple Guardian. So I went through all of the training for that. And for anyone who doesn't know, essentially that's the people who hold the space of the temple and protect the temple and the people within it. So after that experience, and especially through their training process and how that impacted my experience on Playa and how I show up for people, I thought we already do this in our camp. There are many individuals that I can think of right now that have always been that kind of person, but maybe never necessarily had the recognition in language that they were that person holding space. And I think creating Temple Guardians, I did not create Temple Guardians. Creating Camp Guardians, I think offered an opportunity for the people already holding space for one another to have the power to turn it on and off with a title. That if they were ready and here to engage and hold space for somebody, that they had that in language, or if they said, now is not the time, but I can link you up with someone else. We had a list each year of people that have signed up for this, and we meet a little bit off Playa to kind of...
How many people usually?
It varies anywhere from like 5 to 8 people we have within camp.
Okay.
And essentially...
And are they like kind of on the whole time, or do they have shifts?
No, so there's no shifts. It's based on the individual's discretion of that when they feel available, and it's pretty cool how the flow works with that it actually ends up linking people up in certain situations that you might not necessarily have reached out to that guardian in particular, but because another guardian kind of needed their own space and connects you with somebody different, I think it started creating a system of support that we did have, but now it honored the space of those guardians so that they were able to kind of move through that in a way that didn't necessarily burden them the way it might have in the past.
What would be an example of something a guardian has dealt with in the past? Like it was a situation where it was very useful for a guardian to be able to step up and contribute to. There's so many different ones, but really in situations where there's miscommunication and maybe two people aren't seeing eye to eye, maybe there's a little bit of lack of sleep or lack of hydration involved, that these different things pile up and leave us unable to really come to a resolve, even if that's what we want. So a guardian can kind of step in and not necessarily Somebody's having a
dictate and
meltdown.
mediate. They're not necessarily there to mediate,
Yeah.
but they're there to simply say, it's okay. And I hear you and I see you and this is valid, but we also can all agree that this isn't working like it is, and let's find what works between us, whether it's just for an individual or two people that are having a disagreement or a challenge at some point. And that's really just what the guardians are there for.
That's powerful. Okay. Commentary.
So it kind of just hit me that, given our conversation earlier about leadership being kind of burnt out, that's something that's happened to me and that I'm always extra cautious of. And I think having the guardians is a great buffer or a safeguard against that, because you've got to think that these leaders are putting in year-round work, and it only intensifies in the summer leading up to. And then once you're out there, it's extreme, that you're in the burn. But as a leader, when these situations happen, where there's a meltdown,
Right.
Whatever it may be, it's explosive, and they're going to come straight to the leader, or the affected parties are going to come straight to the leader in an affected state, and it can be very, very taxing if multiplied. And it can, in my eyes, it can leave a really bad taste in your mouth. You're out there to have the best time possible, and now you're having to deal with other people's trash, if you will.
It's also affecting your efficiency as a leader.
Correct,
And
yeah.
because you have executable logistics.
Right. Well, it's just an emotional tax
Yeah.
that you didn't necessarily sign up for. It's like, I signed up to get you guys here. Now deal with your own stuff, but not everyone is capable of that. So these guardians act as that buffer to receive that whatever is happening, and maybe the leader has to be notified. Maybe they don't. Ideally, they don't, and this person is trained to to harness the resources in the community to deal with that situation, because we're all capable people.
Right.
But if it's just that leader or the two main leaders that everyone is always looking at, what do we do? Where do we go? You know, like, where's the fire extinguisher?
Yeah.
And that happened last year. It just gets to be a lot, and you
That's
can
powerful.
leave, and then you have to deal with people's stuff afterwards and things that happened that week. So I think The Guardian is just something amazing that you guys have done. And
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I'm such
honestly,
a fan
like
of
to
this.
piggyback off of that, for me, I've always, although I do love connecting and like diving deep into those introspective conversations, when I'm getting personal with somebody, I have, you know, we all have our own issues with asking for help. And I think by creating Guardians, it gave me now an opportunity in language to, even if I'm not having a meltdown and I'm like rolling in the dust, writhing about my misery, I can still have moments where I'm like, am I thinking about this clearly?
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to just go to a Guardian and say, hey, do you have a minute? Can I like check in on this and make sure I'm not going crazy?
Yeah, your protect your leadership, I think, is the overarching. Is like make sure, because they're looking after everyone, and I experienced this. I'm just anxious that everything is okay, is everything in place, like, and I'm always hard on myself, and I oftentimes have trouble asking for help or admitting that I'm not like all okay and I'm having a breakdown or whatever, because I'm supposed to be that person that is indestructible that everyone looks to. So just like I would recommend those workhorses, make sure they're being fed and they have water and that people are checking on them. You know what I mean? That they're okay.
That is, I think this takeaway is one of those things. Like if someone's listening, I mean, it would be weird if you're listening to this and you never plan on going to Burning Man. But if you are, like, this could be seriously something that you could implement in any organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No matter big, small,
Seriously.
placed, not placed.
It's $1 million idea, man. I love it. This, I'm like absolutely blown away by this. I'm already, wheels are turning about places
And
that I could suggest this.
It's super cool because like, so I created a resource book when building this out, that is always ever changing and growing with every person that takes on the leadership of the Camp Guardians. But it's actually really cool to see how much it's actually impacted people. That this past year, I've been doing kind of a lot of like volunteer work with the Temple Guardians in regards to COVID relief and how the Burning Man community kind of steps into that, as well as the racial injustice movements that are happening right now. And we've been working a lot on how we can bring these resources out to default communities and into the world. And we actually were, I mean, I don't know if I actually told you guys this yet, but I gave them our Guardian handbook, and it's actually been passed on to emergency relief groups in order to understand
That's
how
amazing.
to deal with different kinds of trauma, and not necessarily just like bringing people down and grounding them, but allowing them to process and be in that hectic state and know that it's safe to be there until they're ready to come down.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Do we? Is it possible that's linkable? Is there any way we can link to it in our show notes?
Yeah, I think
it's
we
like
can
if-
put something together with that. Right
Yeah.
now, it's just in a PDF form. But
Yeah. I mean, my photography rate sheet on my personal website is just a Google Doc that people can
Yeah.
download. So I would love to be able to link to
Okay.
this. That's
Definitely.
really, really cool. Blown away. Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. It's making me think a lot. I'm gonna nerd the fuck out for just a second here. Did anybody here ever watch Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Oh yes.
A little bit.
So I used to watch it as a kid with my brother, and I think it like implemented a lot of like my earlier ideas about like the elegance of leadership and enlightened decision making, right? But really, I was a fucking kid, and most of the time, I just wanted to see when the aliens would shoot each other. Rewatching it now as an adult, it's really fascinating. It's a military structure, even though they're not a military ship. They do get into military conflicts, but their officer hierarchy, the top-ranking officers include the ship's counselor and the ship's doctor, and the ship's doctor is higher ranking than the captain. Like, she can say, "No, you're out," and it's really powerful to like watch that because they have so many episodes of the show that involve situations where they need to make some sort of a military decision, but they spend like half the show exploring the feelings and emotions that are coming up about this with the counselor before they make that decision. You know, and she's part of the decision-making tree about what we do next so that this clarity can be achieved. Like I remember this one episode where Captain Picard is like on his way to deliver information to a child on board that his mother got killed on a mission. And they stop in the turbo lift elevator, and he just like at first he's upset and he's venting. He's upset. He's like, they shouldn't be bringing kids on board. I've always been against this policy, and like has it out with the counselor, clears the energy before going in to be the badass leader that he's supposed to be. And I always think about that. I'm like, that could you imagine if our government hierarchy, our militaries had that, rather than it being like the side thing you go and do on the side, like, oh, really? You shot somebody? All right, go sit down with a psychologist for a couple of hours so we can check that thing off on the list. But like to really have that be a deeply embedded part of the decision-making tree, that's really, really beautiful.
I feel like that's kind of how we operate with you puppies being director and then me being number two. I'm more the pounded out kind of person.
Yeah.
And you're the thoughtful one.
And we switch sometimes.
We do.
I need you.
You're switch hitter pounders.
Yeah.
I made a note. I don't know if this will or will not spark anything, but for some reason you said dust storm, and it made me think. I wonder if you have any. If something comes to mind as the most hilarious, ridiculous adventure you've ever experienced,
Well,
go.
this is specifically camp-related dust storm. I think it was 2015. We had really gnarly ones, and my Hexier had kind of gotten set up last, so it was right next to our shade structure. I had been up for like 3 days, and I was kind of like, we were having a really bad storm. It was late in the afternoon, and I was done. Like I had to go to sleep, and so I told one of the other dudes in camp, like, hey, and a bunch of people were out, so there wasn't a lot of people around, but like, make sure the ratchet straps are tight down, like something lifts up. I'm going to sleep for a little bit. Wake me up if anything gets bad. So I go and lay down. My Hexier was right next to where our fiberglass flagpole for our camp was. I just lay down, and then all of a sudden, smash! Fucking flagpole breaks in half, smashes in the roof. And I run out. I'm naked. I go, what the fuck? Oh shit! A tree fell in my house. I'm trying to tape it back together.
I think a tree fell on my house might be the last sentence I ever imagined I'd hear at Burning Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a what was it? There was that super hot year a couple years ago, and dust storm year. Like that broke a lot of veterans. They were like, "Fuck this! I'm done with Burning Man."
And that was a year that we had like a handful of virgins come to the early build with us that were like incredible powerhouse people, but they had no idea what was to come, and then they got hit with that. It was something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just slept all day. I think I saw every sunrise that year because I'd sleep all day. Then I'd be up.
We doing dust storm stories?
You can do whatever stories you want. Give me something ridiculous.
I have a good dust storm.
We have not had enough ridiculous on this episode. It's been all really important leadership information.
We'll mix it up a bit. So I believe it was that year, maybe the prior. I think it was the prior, actually. So we set up, I think it was Tuesday night. We went... I at that point I was like the camp like lead for taking people out on safaris on the playa, because I just like love bringing new people out or like new-ish people on these journeys. And we find an art car with about 20 of us that load up on it. We probably go maybe 8 blocks. The art car stops and it's just staying there for forever. And we're like, I guess we'll just get off and hoof it. And to the left we see these giant like gem like crystals, blue crystals that are like my height, 6 feet, 4 feet, leading into this like room that's just covered in like white fur. And we're like, where are we? So we're like, let's just go check this out. We walk in there. There's no one in sight. And I walk around the corner to like the dining area, and there's 2 people. They're just like sitting there. They look pretty tired. And I'm like, hey, do you mind if we like hang out? And they're like no problem. Like, make yourselves at home, or like bar right there. Or I don't think they offered the bar yet, but in due time, I was talking to them and I look over and there's Katie and Kevin, like with drink shakers already, and I'm like, is that okay? And they're like, yeah, totally. Like they're like, sorry, we had an acid trip. We're a little exhausted, but make yourselves at home. Like the nicest people ever. And then one of their leads comes out and he's like, hey, this is Camp. This is Pickles. His name's Wiley. And he just really takes a liking to our energy, and it's just like you can tell he's so stoked. You know, people come to your camp and you're like, they're enjoying it. Like, this is awesome. We put on some music. We just start like partying at their place, and some of their people start coming back, and it's just like this beautiful collision of and so the backstory on their camp is they joke and call themselves the billionaires camp or bajillionaires camp. And they have very wealthy people from New York.
Yeah.
I think Susan Sarandon camp there.
Okay.
A lot of big names. So they have a lot of money. So everything is plush white fur.
Yeah.
And we're just partying, having the best time. And I brought 4 people from New Zealand, all their first burn. And they have like no gear, nothing. My buddy Ant, who I know from college, he's a friend of a good friend. So I'm kind of like guiding these guys. There's a guy from England. We just got this amazing crew, and then Ant goes off to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden a crazy dust storm hits. It's probably 40-50 mile an hour winds, and it's dark, and it's coming through. It's not just on Playa, it's in the neighborhood, and it just rushes through this camp. So we're all like goggled up, like the New Zealanders, they don't have goggles. I'm pulling out extra goggles to get them all suited up. And this thing doesn't let up for, I'd say, at like an hour at least. And it's just like a spaceship. And some of us like hadn't done ketamine before. I was like, this is the time. And that's the night. Some people were like, I get it now.
Yeah.
So we're playing different like Fish and like all sorts of music. My buddy Ant is just gone forever. And I'm like, oh shit. Like he's out there with no water, no supplies. He has goggles, thank God. And we're playing Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros Home, and he's just walking around completely lost, has no idea where we are. He's getting like really thirsty and like a bit worried, and he hears that song and he's like, that's gotta be them. And he just walks towards the music and he finds us, and he just comes up to me, he's like, bro, just this white face, white hair. I'm like, where you been? He's like, I got lost in a dust storm. I'm like, welcome back. You want some ketamine? Here's some water first. Oh my God. People were like motorboating these chicks. My wife was like, is it okay if I motorboat? I'm like, yeah, go for it. It was just one of those experiences where you're just on another You're motorboating the New Zealand girl.
You're hearing Gloria, by the way, in the background.
Yeah,
Pickles'
my wife.
lovely wife.
But I mean, that really just like,
I love it.
Gloria's giving the boss Wiley like a massage. He's on mezcal, and he's just like, I love you guys so much. Wiley ended up camping with us like 2 years later.
Yeah. No way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of burners' daydream is to do acid with Susan Sarandon. I think that's like one of the burner bucket lists.
Yeah.
Well, I might just come hang out once Burning Man happens again, like all week, hoping to run into Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's that was like a crazy dust storm experience that just brought. They can be really chaotic, but that one just brought everyone together. We're in the right place.
Oh yeah. Oh no, the dust storm is like the most epic experience when you're like lined up, and a lot of times like you're walking down a street and you're like, okay, now I need shelter, and then you end up with people hunkered down with some people for a while and making new friends and having new conversations. Yeah, it's what is it? I mean, Larry Harvey had said that his philosophy was like it's hardship that brings people together. So
absolutely,
that's why a bunch of us idiots go out there.
Yeah. Yep. The breakdowns.
Yeah. God, this has been an epic conversation, and I feel like we have multiple executable takeaways in addition to the fun banter, which has been really, really lovely. Thank you all so much for all of the work that you do.
This was amazing.
Yeah,
Everything
thank
you do to
you.
contribute to the community. Are you going to do the thing? No, it's really like I've had just incredible experiences with your camp, and I really appreciate all the work that you do. And as always, when I do these interviews, I get to have like real deep clarity about where that appreciation's coming from, and it comes from like your camp makes a very direct intention to create community, and that's really beautiful. It's given me a lot of inspiration, and I'm looking forward to executing some of these in my various projects. So,
And we hope your listeners come and visit us and see what it's all about, and the family grows.
absolutely.
Yeah, come get some pho.
Yeah. And shout out to Dan and Maggie. I fucking love both of you.
Yes.
They're-
Yes.
I think we'll say they're like our contributing producers for this
Absolutely.
episode.
They
It's
linked
through
us
them.
up.
Yeah, that I met you. So, thank you both so much. Love you all very much. Thank you. I'm gonna do the outro thing here.
That's our camp call. Pow, pow, pow.
That's lovely. Thank you all so much. Where is it? You are now listening to the sounds of Los Angeles-based Fita. I like saying that. Fita. This set was recorded at a camp fundraiser held at Blonde Bar in San Diego on May 6th of 2017. You can follow him at soundcloud.com/Fita1. That is spelled FITTA. And the number 1, we'll link to that, of course. You can follow me on Instagram at Burner Podcast. That's all one word. Please leave us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and message us if you want to support the show by contributing in any fashion. You're always invited to pitch interviews in your neck of the woods. All of these links are over at our digital village at burnerpodcast.com. There you'll also find Alkaline, Build to Burn, Into the Fire, and link over to music.bm. Our producers are Louis Gallipo in Bermuda and Lana Boy in Brooklyn. Our opening theme music, America's Horse with No Name Remix, is produced by Joman, and you can find him at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. Until next time, love, light, and all that other crap. Reminding us that we don't actually have to be on Playa in order to feel that Playa energy no matter where we are. Take it away, Fita.
bass. Cut the mid-range, drop the bass. Underground is where we wanna go.
love our music. We're passionate about what we do. And of course, a lot of people gonna make money off of whatever they do, you know. But if you love what you do, the money will just come. Younger people are gonna grab and take a piece of this and decide to make it their lane and take it to their.
Bottom line is there's always going to be, in some cases, a bad apple, but it just depends. Once you have that bad apple, just pull it out the barrel, and now you got a whole basket of good apples. You know what I'm saying? We love our music. We're passionate about what we do. And of course, a lot of people gonna make money off of whatever they do, you know. But if you love what you do, the money will just come.
Peaceful as it seems, balance is accomplished by all means. There's a method to the madness. There's order in chaos. There's order in chaos. Peaceful as it seems, balance is accomplished by all means. There's a method to the madness. There's a method to the madness. There's order in chaos. Peaceful as it seems, balance is accomplished by all means. There's a method to the madness. There's a method to the madness. There's order in chaos. Peaceful as it seems, balance is accomplished by all means. There's a method to the madness.
Just takes a little time. You don't
la gorda.
face the past, my head up high, no I'm lost in my devotion. You got underneath for good. This moment's meant to be. Slowly falling like we should. One possibility. This moment's meant to be. Slowly falling like we should.
burnerpodcast.com.